if we don't make a decision on some Texas fit for Medicaid expansion, by January of 2014, we'll start losing $9.4 million a day, not B, but M, $9.4 million a day if we don't figure out some way, maybe within the parameters of that fine op-ed that you submitted to the newspapers. But if we don't figure it out, that's what it's going to cost us per day. I am told that if the state of Texas were to decide to put up $50 million, it would draw down about $4 billion in health care money to deal with a lot of those challenges exploding in our budget that you made reference to earlier about Medicaid. And I just want to get some sense of whether or not you think that rider that was added at the end is a pathway, some vehicle for something that addresses the concerns you have. About 90% of them I agree with, 10% I have problems with. But if you think that's a pathway to at least get to the end of the road.
Well, Senator Ellis, the first thing that I would say is that I'm not familiar with any program where we could put up $50 million and get $4 billion back. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. What I'm telling you is I've been sitting in the chair since the summer when the Lieutenant Governor talked to me. We've been looking at this a long time, and I'm not familiar with that. But I'm willing to be educated on it. The second thing I would say is that I don't think that more money is going to be what solves this problem. What I'm trying to make clear is the program, the existing program, and that was the opening line in the op-ed that you mentioned, it is a broken system and it is not sustainable. And so what I think is important to all of us, if you really care about this and you want it to be something that can be sustainable and that people can have access to health care, is that we have to get a program that we can reasonably afford to fund. And the current program is not that way, and I seriously question that just putting more money that the federal government doesn't have into a program that doesn't work already is how we're going to solve that problem. I think we fundamentally have to change the way it works and reform the system, and certainly what I'm trying to do with this rider that you referenced, which is in Article 9 on page 70, if anybody wants to turn to that and look at it, and what we say is that notwithstanding any other provision of this Act, no amount can be expended to modify Medicaid eligibility unless the Commission develops a plan to create a more efficient health care options for all existing and newly eligible populations, and that they receive written approval from the Legislative Budget Board. What I would tell you is, I believe, and you know very well, that Senator West, Senator Nelson, Senator Dewell, and myself, and Senator Hinojosa all worked on a bill to address this very issue, and we decided that the bill didn't need to be filed. And I think the table is set. The table is set by the good work that Senator Nelson did in Senate Bill 7 and Senate Bill 10, and the tools are there. In fact, I'm convinced more now than ever that the governor can direct Senator Janik to go, and they do not need legislative approval to go and negotiate a new program with the federal government. But what we need is the federal government to give us the ability to reform the program, because I'm not interested in covering any newly eligible population unless we can reform the system that we have for the existing population. And what I would say is the providers aren't happy, the physicians aren't happy, and the people who we're trying to serve with Medicaid aren't happy with the current program. What in the world do we want to throw more money at a system like that for? So I think all of that goes to say that my primary purpose with this rider is to make sure that the legislature is involved in the process. Whatever the governor and Senator Janik work out with Sebelius and the other members of the administration, I want us to have a say in it, and I believe that this rider accomplishes that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I hope that you're right. That figure that I made reference to comes from the LBB. One of their recommendations was that this $50.4 million in state funding would draw down $4 billion in federal match for the next budget cycle. But I shared it with you. And look, I'm committed to doing everything I can to help you. I think the federal government has granted Texas the vast majority of the waivers that they have asked for, that we've asked for, both under the Bush administration and under the Obama administration. I know you spend a lot of time at a medical center talking to those CEOs, as I do. And because I represent the medical center, all of the information that I'm getting from them, every one of those hospitals would really be at a tremendous disadvantage if we don't find some way working with the federal government, as Arkansas did and Arizona did, to be able to draw down that money.